Hi, and welcome to the continuation of Global Sourcing Essentials. This section will discuss the different methods of paying for your imports. Importers need to understand the different payment options used to pay for imported goods to ensure they agree to the best possible deal with suppliers. At the end of the day, you want to pay the lowest cost possible without compromising on other aspects of the deal that are critical for you, such as quality. In every transaction, terms are always subject to negotiation between yourself and a potential supplier. As we get into each method, you'll note that the level of risk is often polarized between both parties. These four basic methods are the foundation for payments in the import and export world: cash in advance, letters of credit, bank drafts, and open account. Each one carries a level of risk because the exporter is depending on the importer's financial integrity, and the importer is dependent upon the exporter's production and shipment integrity. As a result, open accounts and bank drafts are preferred by importers, while exporters prefer cash in advance and letters of credit. Cash in advance. This method presents the highest risk for importers because they are prepaying for goods before receiving them. Importers risk not receiving goods or receiving damaged goods after payment with cash in advance. Thus, it's critical to really complete due diligence on suppliers and use checkpoints to make sure the transaction meets your expectations. One checkpoint could be hiring a third-party inspector to check quality on the goods midway through production. Now, should you agree to cash in advance and not receive your goods as expected, your recourse may be limited, especially if the supplier is located in a country with a different legal system, such as China. Letters of credit provide the safest choice of payment for both the buyer and seller because it's based on the flow of stipulated documents through the banking system. With this payment method, a bank becomes responsible for making the payment to the seller after they present all of the proper documents and meet the letter of credit's terms and obligations. This method is more costly than others, with fees typically ranging between 1% and 8% of the face value of the letter of credit. This method only deals with documents and terms. It does not address quality or quantity of goods. A bank draft, or bill of exchange, is payable on demand and drawn by or on behalf of the bank itself. It is regarded as cash and cannot be returned unpaid. Most drafts are processed through the banking system and known as documentary collections. The importer is legally bound to pay the exporter when they sign or accept a draft. However, banks are not obliged to release payment on the importer's behalf. In a sight draft, the importers and exporters' banks act as intermediaries to collect documents and payments. The exporter is paid once the goods are shipped and a draft is presented to the buyer for payment. The exporter will release shipping documents once payment is received. In a time draft, the exporter releases shipping documents after the importer has accepted the draft. This acceptance is a promise to pay the exporter on an agreed-upon date. As a result, the buyer is able to receive goods prior to submitting payment. Bank drafts also do not address quality or quantity of goods. Open accounts is the opposite of cash in advance. It allows the importer to receive merchandise without submitting payment. With open account, the exporter is essentially financing the transaction, thus taking on the greatest risk. However, an importer will want to check quality and quantity prior to taking possession of the goods. This payment is actually quite rare in initial transactions and often reflects greater market power of the buyer. Some considerations. Payment methods are always negotiable and can be used to leverage the best deal for you. To ensure you're receiving exactly what you ordered before submitting or committing to payment, inspect the goods for quantity and quality. It is generally acceptable for a supplier to conduct a credit and background check on an importer, such as ordering a Dun & Bradstreet company profile. Importers should also vet and perform due diligence on suppliers to ensure the transaction integrity. References and credit reports are a good place to start learning about who you may do business with and to avoid precarious situations. Since international trade deals with different currencies and economic conditions, foreign exchange risks exist in every transaction. One side of the transaction will always assume it. For example, if the exporter chooses to bill an importer in US dollars, then it will bear the cost of foreign exchange rate risk. Should the US dollar deflate, then they absorb the loss because after payment is converted, the dollar will amount to a smaller amount of their domestic currency. However, not all foreign sellers will accept US dollars, and they may require the importer to buy a fixed amount of currency at a specified future date. This is known as foreign currency futures and is a method for exporters to manage and hedge their risk. This concludes Section 7, in which we've discussed and explored how to pay for your imports. Before finalizing payment arrangements, make sure to discuss which option is best for your scenario with your international bank. Click on the next video tutorial to continue learning about global sourcing essentials. Thanks for joining us.